Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle. I'll be your host yet again this week. Never ending, isn't it? Please go down and hit subscribe right down here below me. Hit the notification bell so you'll always know when we're coming out with videos, which is usually Monday and Fridays around 4 o'clock. But still, it alerts you, reminds you, hey, it's Monday. Wayne's back on. And please leave a comment if so be. We always check all the comments, see what you put in there. If it's spam or something at that point, we'll get rid of it. But for the most part, we keep all the comments. We don't care if you're trolling us. We have fun. We got a sense of humor. Additionally, go to the About section. If you look underneath me, you keep going across the videos and all that. You'll get to the About. When you get to the About section, you'll find represent.com, which has the long sleeve, short sleeve Dutch Hunter Rendezvous and Legend of the Superstition Mountain shirts in black and gray. That being said, coming up, going through the summer, navigating, we'll get on to some more information concerning the Rendezvous, which will be featuring our guest speaker, Jesse James Feldman, on his book, The Trail of the Dutchman, at that rendezvous. But until then, we're going to kind of go back into a little bit of the archives, not as far back as you would think. This is going to be January 14th, 2007. Dog's really excited about it. That trip was coordinated, I know, by Greg Davis. Greg at the time, I believe, at this point in time, and I could be wrong, was the president of the Superstition Mountain Museum. He was the president of the Dons of Arizona. He was also still the director of acquisitions and research for the Superstition Historical Society. So he had a little bit of everything going. I know he got together with Jack Carlson, who was the co-author with Elizabeth Stewart of the Superstition Mountain Hiking Guides, and later the Trails East and West, the Hiking Guides. And let's see. Additionally, with us that day would have been Randy Wright, pretty much my partner in the mountains at that time, and Kevin Nunemacher, and Larry Wright, who was no relation whatsoever to Randy Wright. And it was the six of us going in. What had happened is we had a pretty good idea out by the Red Paint Mine, where we believe John Chunning's claims and a tunnel he had dug was up in the mountains. That was pulled from the bark manuscript, which I always like the bark manuscript because you find very real things in it. You find tunnels, places where people dug, dates, names that actually you can verify things. This was one of those situations to all the guys that like to poo-poo on the whole bark manuscript thing. I'm sorry, the thing is damn accurate for the most part. So we were going back in to investigate this, the Chunning claim and where this tunnel was. Nobody had been in it since John had dug it, which would have been either probably right around the turn of the century, the early 1900s. It could have been earlier than that when Bark and him got involved, but I believe it was after 1900. So it had been at that point around 100 years since probably had anybody been in it, or over 100 years. So we wanted to go back in, see if we could find the adit to it or an opening to get down into it and check it out and see what was there still. So we began this. It was January 14th, 2007. We may do an updated version of this because there were two sets of discs of photographs which we'll be using through this. One was mine, which there was probably 50 or 60 photographs at least taken, and then Randy Wright's photographs that he took. What we would do is go back and try to share those with each other and archive them up. I usually take a disc, I make a copy of the disc, so I have my originals. I'll make some hard copy photographs that I might be 8x10s or 4x5s around the house that I might post up or use or give to Greg. But then I also make usually a secondary disc and try to save those things off. Well, unfortunately, I found Randy and the copy, and it says Chunning Claims or Chunning Mine #2. I went through everything I have, and I cannot find the first disc, the original disc. The original card I would have erased and reused from the camera. So Hopefully they're not lost. Hopefully I will start digging through some more boxes and maybe it just was out of place or something. But right now my gut is sinking a little because I'm thinking, wow, I lost all those pictures. And I took really detailed pictures of the expedition so that we had from beginning to end a nice set of everything as we were working in the whole process and everybody involved in the entire trip. Now, I do remember this one. I'm able to kind of pull it off of what date I got the pictures from Randy, but it was also Sunday because several people did not take part in the trip because of NFL football. It was Sunday. So we all went in. I was heading in. The guys were there. I was running behind in traffic. Told them to take off, go ahead. I ended up being about 40 minutes late, 40 minutes behind them. They took off from the First Water parking lot, and I'm driving in, and I told Randy, I said, guys, take off. I'll catch up because I say this with all due respect, even though Jack Carlson and Randy and Larry Wright were there, Greg Davis was with them, so they're not like gazelles going through the mountains. So I figure I can catch up. I'm driving there and I'm looking at my temperature gauge, not on for the truck, but the outside temperature, and it's at 8 degrees, 10 degrees, 9 degrees, and I'm thinking, what the hell? It's pretty cold out there. Well, we had a cold snap come in, and I don't ever remember being that cold going in the mountains. And it was dry, and it was breezy, and it was nasty. So I got to the parking lot. I did have a picture on my set of what the temperature was, 10 or 12 degrees when I got there. Wind's blowing. Of course, I'm dressed accordingly. I had a long sleeve shirt on, basically, which was thicker, but a pair of BDU pants and a pair of tennis shoes and a hat. So I got out, had no gloves, nothing like that, found a bandana in the truck, and realized I was going to catch them, probably have to run down the trail. So it's 2007, so I get out and get myself going. I realized I was going to have to wear the bandana around my nose, try to pull it up on my ears because of how cold it was, and then start running. Now, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the bandana because the air was so cold it hurt to breathe. So whenever you took a big breath, it was like your lungs just hurt. So the bandana kind of helped with that. So what I would do is I would jog for a while, then I would just run, and then I would jog, and then I would run. I did this all the way down up into Garden Valley, all through Garden Valley, down the hill. And then finally, I was getting to a point seeing these guys way out in the distance, crisscrossing and going around this ridge, and caught them before second water. Caught up to the guys and saw them just creeping along. They were making pretty decent time, though. Caught up to them and had great pictures of them out in front of me because would pause and stop and take a picture and everything. They had no idea I was back there. I did catch up to them, and then we went down into second water, Obie Stoker's area, the question mark mine, and back through there heading for the red paint mine. When we got to the red paint mine, Greg was a little tired. It warmed up finally. The sun came up, but it was still pretty damn cold. It was probably still in the 30s. So Greg built a little campfire, decided to make some coffee. He was going to sit back, relax, let his legs catch up to him, and we could go out and start exploring the area. Now, Randy and I talked about going around into Boulder Canyon and looking at Chuck Ayler's house and some mines over there, but we decided to go with everybody else really and explore north of there. We found a number of old mines that had been caved in and prospects and stuff, and we're looking around. And then we found a claim marker up on the hill, and I think I got some really good pictures of that. Unfortunately, we don't have. But we got up there, wound up there, and there were these two huge boulders, and they're size of like, I don't know, large trucks, vans, and they're kind of like stacked against each other. And what had happened is John Junie had dug under this and cleared out the dirt under them, and then you crawled in that, and then there was a tunnel back behind all that. And you were just kind of sitting there going, wonder what day this will finally shift and everything will come down, if it could rain. And eventually someday that will happen in that area. So, and it was probably about 20, 25 feet, 30 feet back in from the entrance of that inn. It wasn't a cave, it was just the boulders kind of big boulders piled up on top of each other. So we went in. The tunnel was at the back of this, under some more boulder area, and it was very small. It was probably only about this big, and it was not very big opening. And we saw it, and we looked around. we had a vote. The vote was who was going to go down, because you have to go head first in there and start taking a look around. And we voted, and Randy Wright was the only person who did not vote for Randy Wright. So Randy was going in 5-1. I don't know who Randy voted for. He probably voted for me because he figured I had no problem with going in. I wasn't too sure about it because no one knew what it did once you went in. So we basically decided, rather than to excavate, which would be illegal, it was better to shove Randy in there because it would kind of move the dirt out of the way and move the dirt down in. So we used Randy kind of like a ramrod, Randy Ramrod, and took him by the legs and shoved him in the hole. He kind of crawled, and then we just kind of shoved him in. And then next thing we know is we had him by the legs, and then he's like, I'm in, and we let go, and then Randy just goes, and we're like, well. Now, I did not understand why this happened. What it is when you went in the hole, once you got in, there was like an 8-10 foot drop down this dirt to the bottom of the mine. So when Randy got in, he went face first down that way. He hit the bottom and all, and then Larry Wright said he would go in with Randy. So very kind of him. I was going to do it, and then Larry said, no, I'll go in with Randy. I was going to go in with Greg Davis. So we would be the second group in after them. We were going to do it by groups of 2. So Larry went in after Randy. We heard them get in. We can't really see because the way it kind of goes in and then it shifts down. You can get your light and kind of look in, but you can't see anywhere. And we could see their light kind of like out there, but we couldn't see where they were. And then we hear, guys, there's a skunk in here, and he doesn't seem very happy. And it's like, what do you mean? Of course, now we're all laughing because they're stuck in there. I guess a skunk had taken up, home in there, and Randy started going down this tunnel, and yeah, the skunk is back in there, and Randy wasn't sure, and you could tell Randy was pretty shaky. So they didn't spend very long in there, and they came out. And me and Greg asked them, and they said, well, he's down the tunnel. It kind of does a dog leg, but he's down in there, and you'll see him. They didn't give us very much direction on that. So we're like, okay, whatever. Now, I don't remember what it is in the manuscript, 80 feet, 100 feet, or whatever. But there's that 20, 30 feet, and then you would go down the slope, and then you go in, and then it kind of dog legs and goes back. There's a bit of an exaggeration, but we don't know what they were looking at in the time. So I went to go in next with Greg. I went in first, so I was the third person in. I went in, and of course, to my, Randy said when you go in, it's going to drop. Well, I didn't go in feet first. I went in, and yes, you did end up going kind of face first down this little dirt. It was just a bunch of dirt, and who knows what was in it from the skunks and stuff coming in. But I went down. I'm looking around as I'm going tumbling down in, kind of wondering where this skunk is. I got in, then helped Greg. I helped Greg get in. And Greg was bringing this old camera set up with a big flash. It has a little mechanical thing that goes, and it does flashes. Oh, that's nice. So we're going to just start shouting through the house, because when we film these, we like a really close set, and we make sure everybody's paying attention to what we're doing. So we love the fact that we just start hearing voices randomly in the background of people having conversations. Anyhow, so we get in, and this thing goes in, and it's wide, and it's tall. The ceiling had to be 9, 10 feet. I mean, the thing was huge. And it wasn't like he dug a rat hole or dug something. It was like it had space. And I was kind of very surprised, because this man, there was no reason, there's no vein, there's no nothing. He just basically dug and bored into the mountain for no apparent reason. Just driving this shaft in. So I'm looking around, and I'm going like, holy crap, man. So Greg's got this old camera set up, and he's got the old flash. And then I look up as we get around the corner, and there's the skunk. He's on the wall to our left. And he was like hanging on the wall. And he'd look over at us and look back, look over at us, and then, kind of like, if I don't look at you, you can't see me. So I'm standing there, and I'm just going, man, okay. Greg goes, so I got my light on him, kind of paying attention to what he's doing, because really there's nowhere to go. And if he's rabid, or he wants to kind of charge us, or anything goes on, or he decides to spray us, we don't really have much. I figure Greg's doomed if anything, because I can get up that little hill pretty quick, and I'm getting out first. So we're standing there, and Greg decides, I take pictures. I took a lot of pictures. I took pictures of Greg. I took pictures of the tunnel. Took pictures of the skunk. Took pictures of going up that, back out the engine. I got all kinds of good pictures. And then Greg says, I need to take my pictures. And Greg liked to develop his own film because we were like, Greg kept thinking we were in the 1930s. And so Greg goes, okay, hold on, click. And it goes flash. And the skunk goes like, ah. And I'm going, okay, Greg. And Greg goes, hold on. And he sets the camera down and he advances it. And he pulls out the bulb. And then he goes, digs for another bulb, puts another bulb in, and I'm like, he's like, keep the light on this. And I'm like, Greg, there's a freaking skunk coming down the wall at us. I'm trying to watch the skunk. No, don't worry about the skunk. I'm thinking, I'm worrying about the skunk. So Greg is meticulously for the next 15, 20 minutes changing light. Oh, film's out. So now Greg's got to change the film. Oh, hold the flashlight. Greg, the damn skunk is approaching us, man. So me and Greg went through all that together, which was absolutely hilarious because I'm nervous as hell because I realized literally if the skunk decided to want to get around us and decided to spray us, there was no way we were going to get out of the way. And it really sucked. And so I'm trying to tell him quietly with not raising my voice. It's like, we need to get a freaking move on this old man. And then he's going, can you walk down to the end? I'm like, I'm not walking by the skunk that's all agitated at this point because he's wondering who all these people are that keep coming in. So, but he's hanging on that wall, man. He was hanging there for dear life. He keeps working his way down, but I'm thinking, shit. And if he falls off, man, we're done because he's going to just take off one. And there's no place to go the other way. He's coming back at us. So we finally finished all that up, got everything wrapped up. Then we go to get out. And of course, that is, Greg was probably, he could have been in his late 60s or maybe early 70s at that point. Greg has to go up this big dirt incline back up to that little hole at the top. And it's kind of like one of those things where you go 2 feet and you lose 3 feet and you gain 1 foot and then you lose another half foot and you're just taking forever scrambling. He's got this camera and all this other crap. So now I got to get below Greg. I'm trying to keep where the skunk is, and I have to push Greg by the feet to get him back up, push him back through the hole, push Randy in the hole down. Now I got to push Greg back out the hole. So got Greg out of the hole. Everybody got out. I remember sitting there for a minute or two and just going, man, this whole thing is just, I felt safer in there with the skunk because it was such a hard rock mine. I mean, there was nothing happening there. But I thought, God, you imagine if those boulders shifted? You're never coming out of there because it's a hole this big and the boulders are just going to, oh, man. So, and I could not figure out for the life of me why he dug that tunnel. But we got out of there, went out. I believe the last 2 guys went in. I don't know because I went outside. And it's weird because Kevin Noonamaker hadn't gone in, but Kevin was outside with me talking. So I don't think there was anybody else with us. I don't know if Larry and Randy went back in or what the whole situation was, but I went outside. Then I remember seeing Randy because I took a picture of Randy with, I think, Geronimo head in the background behind him. We took some pictures of ourselves out there and kind of talking. There was a claim. Kevin kind of dismantled the claim a bit, looking to see if there was any claim papers or anything in it. We couldn't find anything. And we sat out kind of basically the sun was out finally, we were warming up, so we were actually kind of able to get warm. Well, at that point, we're kind of all done, and Greg's like, okay, let's start heading back. We'd all done our documentation, got our pictures, worked our way down, got back to the red paint mine. Greg said he was going to take a nap because he needed to take a nap before he got back on the trail to work his way up. Because coming back out of second water, you're going to go uphill a bit more. So I understood it. So he's like, I'm going to take a nap. You guys do whatever you want to do. Randy was like, well, I'm going to hang with Greg, blah, 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 blah. And these guys, they didn't actually do anything else, really. I don't think they spent any time at Obie's or any place else at that time. And then I decided, well, I'm just going to head out, guys, because the football game comes on. The one I wanted to see comes on in an hour or so. So I think at least I'll be able to listen to it on the radio. So I threw my pack on and I ran from red paint mine in second water. I ran all the way to first water trailhead to get back to my truck. I figured I ran in, I might as well run out. And I was still making pretty good time in the mountains, obviously, in 2007. Yeah, that's not bad that I ran that whole trip in and out. for the most part. But that was an interesting trip. I'm really bummed I don't have my pictures, because we hit any stream crossing we hit, the ice was at least almost a ½ inch thick. It had frozen over everything. Any bit of moisture was frozen. So there were pictures of us holding up big sheets of ice and stuff from the streams and stuff. And what pictures we have of Randy, no, I did not have short hair then. That was when I ponytailed all the time. So I had a big old ponytail down the backside, but I ponytailed it, which I probably should have let my hair down that day. It would have helped my ears, because I do remember my fingers and my ears were frozen. I got back to my truck, and even with the heater, I could not, even after the whole day, I still wasn't warmed up. The extremities were still pretty damn cold. From that morning. I don't think I've ever been back in the mountains on a colder morning than that, because wind chill, it had to be close to 0. But we did that, documented it. I don't know if anybody ever went back there again, because it was one of those situations where you couldn't make heads or tails or sense of it. You knew there were some other mines. Now, I know some of those mines in the area have to do with a map that Bob Shoes had, and he believed they were part of that system and so forth. And I've never been able to get Bob to go back in there and kind of show me some of it and what sense he made of it with the maps, so I could kind of understand that. They said there was a thatched mine and he could never find it, and I always wondered if that could have been the thatched mine, because it was well hidden. If you didn't know it was there and crawl under those boulders and back up into those and all, you wouldn't have found that hole that led down. Now, looking at the mine, it had to be more open. I mean, what would drive a man to dig a hole under a bunch of boulders, to dig through the boulders, clear out under the boulders, to after 20 feet or so, dig a hole down and then start boring a mine? It didn't make, so everything had to be set up differently for him to originally start that mine back in there. So, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was that crazy. John Chunning. But that story is in the Bark Notes. It's under the, I think it's the Joe Deering section, because he talks about Joe Deering, the 2 soldiers, and then Joe Deering, and then it goes into the John Chunning stuff while he's talking about Deering. Or it's John Chunning and mentions Joe Deering, but one way or the other, it's in there and all that information. That's how we found that. But that was January 14th of 2007. And yes, I caught the game. I can't remember what game it was, but it was, it was kind of an interesting morning of how much things you can accomplish when you're just focused and just doing what you're doing and everything. And again, I don't think I've ever been back in the mountains any time in my life that it was colder than that. But there you go, trip from back in 2007 with myself, Greg Davis, Jack Carlson, Randy Wright, Kevin Nunemacher, who's no longer with us. Great guy to go out with, funny guy, really good guy. Liked spending time with Kevin. Kevin was always fun. And then Randy Wright and Larry Wright, who I haven't seen in a long time. Larry was such a good guy. Me and Randy made a number of trips in the mountains with Larry, and Larry was good people, man, to go out hiking with. He was one of those people like Jack Carlson, and he was that way of guys that are like literally gazelles. They just move so fast through the mountains that you can't catch your breath, but you really got through stuff. And he covered a lot of ground and saw a lot of stuff back in the mountains. And I didn't know we'd had some mutual friends that connected us all until later. But I hope Larry's all good and everything's all right. I know Jack's still doing well, because I've talked to Jack not too long ago. And Greg Davis is still doing well, because I talked to Jack. What the heck was that?
It's windy.
Is that windy? Okay, so we got something blowing in here. Probably no moisture with it, but we like to have, you see, everybody else gets rain. We get dirt. Dirt falls from the sky, which is what we'll have. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. Hopefully Trevor will have enough from Randy's stuff and put some pictures and inserts in here, and you'll get a kind of idea, being able to see the mine, the guys, and sort of what we went through and stuff, and kind of some pictures. I think there's one of me. Thanks, Randy, for taking one picture of me. So most of the pictures don't feature me, which happened a lot on those things. I would take the pictures for everybody to try to do them, and then I tell Randy, make sure you take pictures of me so you can send them to me so I can put them with it, because I always made sure I got everybody else. And unfortunately, a lot of trips, unless I decided to set up a camera and do a picture of myself, there's not many pictures of me. So I will continue to look for it, because it would be nice to revisit this and go through like a slideshow and talk about the pictures I had, which were more in detail and so forth. So there it is. Do not know what you'll be seeing this Friday. Just tune in at 4 o'clock. Take it and look at it at 4 o'clock. Could be me, could be Trevor, could be live, could be something else. Do not know, But Trevor seems to be signaling he thinks he knows what it is till he forgets and doesn't get it done, because Trevor's great at procrastination. In fact, Trevor's middle name is Trevor Procrastination Tuttle. He always is putting things off. But until Friday, and whatever surprise comes to you, and hopefully it's something really cool that you'll enjoy, because it's always a bonus, something special we're doing, and we're working on other stuff. Please take care of yourself and be well. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We don't throw, I know there's ads show up in this stuff now from YouTube, but we don't try to push anything else. There's nothing really to push right now. So through the summer, outside of show up for the rendezvous. You can always pick up Ron's book or Jesse's book, because those are the two latest books came out. No one sent me anything or alerted me to picking up anything or being aware of anything recently. So I would say, I don't know. And we'll work on whatever else we got going through the summer and fine-tuning some other stuff. And possibly this fall, there'll just be a treasure trove of lots of stuff coming out from us. But until then, hope everyone's well. And always remember, I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends.